Where I thought we started is going through demo package, and what we've done is we sent this to the county board on Friday. We're gonna start getting bids on this. I kind of wanted to give you an overview real quickly of what we did here. So the yellow area shows the area of the existing high school. The kind of orange area, I know there's a little bit more than that, because it's very big. So yellow shaded area, which is the level, is at 2893 on the survey. That means elevation 2,893 feet above sea level. Okay. So the main number to see there is the 93. The orange shaded area is about 12 feet below that. It's 81, plus or minus. So we're just trying to show kind of what we're doing here. And the idea is that when we come back and we do this demo work, we're gonna infill this basement area, basically up to 2888. All these contours back here are 2888, 2889. So we're basically just trying to get it up to grade so that it'll slope to, and so it'll drain back to the east. We're not really gonna go in there and compact it, and if you go to the next slide, Chandler. UI, this slide shows the red UI shows the extent of what will probably end up being something close to the perimeter of the new building. And so, and the X area shows where that top loaded unit is, and where there's gonna be a basement area, so you can see part of that's coming out into where that current basement area is. So we didn't want to infill it and spend the money to compact it. We're just gonna end up taking it back out shortly after, but we want to get it to the point where it's all going to drain to the east and not be a problem. And then the ag building is about 7 feet lower than the main floor of the high school building, 2886. That's the kind of purpose of the. These next slides, we included a footprint. The foundation plan we had is the original high school building, so that whoever's looking at the drawings can kind of understand what all entailed taking that out. The next slide. So this area shows the red area right here is the existing high school building. that's part of the base bid, and then the county board is going to take bid on the green area, which is the south area, the full commons and the band room, as an alternate number, so we have two separate prices. If, we end up going with the K-12 option, that part would probably end up having to be taken down. So, just trying to get an idea of the costs, what that looks like. Next slide. And then we've also included plans to take out, demo the locker rooms. And, we're showing the two lockers underneath the existing seating in the gym, and then the two lockers in the locker room for bathrooms. On the east side of the gym, that would be, gutted and redone, this summer. Along that would be a new roof on that portion of that east, locker room area as well. And so basically, and Eric, I don't know if you guys want to talk about this demo work might be done by somebody else that's not doing the big demo work, right? Would that be more selective demolition?
Yeah, for the locker room areas, correct, Greg. So since it's more selective, it's not a mass demo. That could potentially be a different contractor unless the mass demo contractor also does that. The biggest things there are, which we should have later this week, first part of next from the engineering consultants, is all the equipment. It's gonna go back into those locker room areas. That's our biggest concern, is lead times there from HVAC electrical standpoint. The rest of the work, I'm gonna call like the interiors portion, the plumbing fixtures, the paint, the ceiling, that's not the biggest. It's getting that equipment procured and installed so that those areas can be operational. So once I have that additional information from the engineering, we'll be able to gather some more data from the manufacturers, some other trade partners, just to fact check what those lead times are, and then we'll have some additional information to share with y'all.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question. You say demolition plan for the main entryway.
Yes.
What exactly are you gonna demo? You knock the front of the building down, or you're gonna gut the inside, or
Say that again.
what exactly are you gonna demo on the main entryway?
Go back, keep going, I think. You're talking about this slide?
No, the sheet you were on.
No, the page you were on, it says, go back to that there, right there, top left hand corner. Yes, the demo of the main entry area.
This is the main entry to the gym.
Yes, what exactly are you gonna demo?
Anything, it's not a whole lot up there. Anything that you see with the dash line, it's basically doors.
Doors?
Yeah.
You're not taking walls, main outside walls.
No.
Okay,
No.
just tell me demo and I'm gonna tear it down. Okay, just wanted to make sure we're on the
So
same
anything
page.
you see, even like on the locker room area, anything that you see with the dash line, that's what's coming down. But the walls in there, they're not coming down. And basically what we're proposing for the locker rooms is we're gonna take out the lockers, we're gonna take out the toilets and the urinals and the sinks, and we're gonna go back in with new toilet partitions, new finishes, but we're not going to reconfigure, we're not planning on.
So a
reconfiguring.
remodel job.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's why we're saying. it's
Had me
selective
scared
demolition.
for a minute.
Sorry. Yeah. And then even in, when we go back, the layout of those locker rooms and bathrooms is essentially going to be the same, except for these locker rooms that are all like big, gang showers that they'll have individual showers in. So they'll be like, I can't remember them, 4 or 5 individual showers, in each locker room area. One question we had too was, on the lockers that are currently underneath the gym seating on the east and west sides, or north and south sides. Do you guys want us to redo those as lockers or just keep those as storage areas?
Guess we'd have to decide, so for junior high and high school up there. So the current junior high. The new gym plan. Wrestling room attached there. Now you're gonna have the 2 new lockers, of which you're gonna have your wrestlers there.
where they were in the other building. So I guess I stopped seeing them as locker rooms. But
You don't have to make that decision right now, but it's something we had a question about.
Well, these all bid in sections, so we can look at the numbers just for that instant.
Say that again.
Are these gonna be bid in sections? So that we can look at what you were just talking about, the lockers under the gym and say, okay, we're not gonna pay $300,000 to remodel the lockers under the.
We haven't talked that in depth about how we're gonna bid things yet, but we can do that.
Yeah. Cause that would be a lot of it. I mean, it's not economical to rebuild those lockers. As far as plumbing is the main concern. Stuff like that, because to get water and stuff, you're gonna talk about a lot of boring and things like that, I imagine, I don't know.
Yeah, we,
But
you guys,
We can, yeah, we can do that. I think we should be able to do that fairly simple.
that's just one thing I got in mind. What's everything gonna cost and where we're gonna go from there?
I mean, something like that, I think it's fairly easy to have it as an alternate, provide at some point. You don't want 20 alternates out there, but having some simple ones like that are pretty simple, very nice to do.
Yes.
Okay. Next. So this shows the exterior of the building, so what we're planning on doing right now, with everything, I still just gonna take that, so, we're gonna have them, fit out, keeping all of the terracotta cast stone, like smaller pieces, that's salvaging those when they do the demo. And then we're going to have this entry piece, the major entry and all that, separate out as a separate line item also, so you guys can see what that number is. We have a little bit of concern that when we do try and say that it'll be maybe brittle and may not come out very easily, but we can always remake those pieces of cast stone. Kind of comes down to, if we have to do some of this out of cast stone, maybe it just makes sense to do the whole thing. Just need to get into that and see where we end up after the demo and see what makes sense. So that's why we're gonna have that taken out and altered it, we'll go with that number is, and then we'll have all these other little pieces. As part of that package. Well, that's pretty much it on the demo package. Are there any other questions about that?
about it.
It's kind of just an overview of the demo package. Any other questions on that? Gonna schedule that later on. This is a site plan that we put together. It's very similar to what we had shown previously as a schedule. This is more of a line drawing. Basically, what we're showing here is if we keep the BOE building, keep everything associated with that, we can get 112 parking spaces in this area. We're showing a drop off on the south end, which if we put the K-12 building, you'd want some type of a drop off here. We're showing parking on the west, along 8th Street in front of the building. And then we're showing a bus drop off area over here. Now, I think we also talked about that these two areas can be squished pretty easily. Get about 17 additional parking spaces if you put the row of parking here and you need this bus drop off. So there's still a lot of, there's a lot of flexibility in that. And we want to do that, but if you take off this piece right here, the dressing room piece, I know there's part of the wood shop that's associated with that. You get another about 20 parking spaces in here. But I don't know that there's if you guys want to go that direction. Because, a lot of parking right here. I mean, that's spread out the parking kind of more in that area where the portables are now, so it's not quite as convenient to get all the way to the building, but that's how it lays out. We want to keep that the way I think. So this is what we're showing for 712 option. This is for the floor plan. keeps keeps common and band area on the south side, not really doing a whole lot to that. And it keeps, this is pretty much the configuration that we've shown before. He had a BOE going in here, I think the,
You're turning off.
so. We have to. We have to. But that kind of shows you how this can work out. Then we go to the next plan. That shows, this shows the basement, very next plan that you see before, we have shading there. So we go to the technical area, again, same as what we had before. That junior high sign up top, and then goes down, you have the top floor in here, and then you know, on that side. The bigger question is the next slide, how much does this cost and what's the implication of that? And so, Eric, I don't know how much you want to go into this instead of me, but there's been a lot of back and forth onto funding and what's been approved and what hasn't been approved. I think you guys know we applied to the Hanson Foundation and found out we didn't get any money from the Hanson Foundation at this point. And reapply later and possibly get some. There's been discussion about the 1 cent sales tax, where there's city sales tax or county sales tax. You want to go into that?
Last week we found out we had kind of had a hiccup in it in the legislature. And so, our Representative Smith and Senator Bellinger have been working to get it resolved. And I got word today that it sounds like, they're kind of back to where they think that it'll get passed here this week, so. We had 3 or 4 days, 5 days where things were seeming not very good with that, and so,
Yeah, so last Thursday we heard we weren't gonna be able to have the county sales tax, so they were kind of scrambling a little bit to look at the options of what does just a city sales tax look like. Well, then today we heard that apparently the county sales tax is back. And so we should find out more later this week about that. And so it's been a little bit of kind of juggling things as far as which approach to take. But basically, we adjusted the cost estimate. We looked at how much everything costs and the 712 option. Basically, it costs 34.87 million. Take out the insurance money, and the remaining cost is 26.37 million. The 1 cent county sales tax, it would drop the property tax piece of that by about $7.5 million. It would still be a $26.37 million bond issue. Just combine sales tax and property tax. So the property tax portion ends up being 18.87 million. And so look at that in 30 years or 25 years would be 20 mil tax increase over 30 years, 23 mil tax increase in 5 years. So we don't want to be clear that it doesn't make a bond issue 18.87. Bond issue is still be 26.37, but the property tax impact would be 18.87. And so then if it's just any sales tax, they said we could probably count for about 2.7 million instead of 7.5 million. So that shows you that the remaining cost would be 23.67 million. And it would be a 25.75 mil tax increase in 30 years, which 28 mil tax.
Do these numbers include the interest,
Interest for what?
the bond?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bond that has to be paid for over the course of the bond. Is that what you're asking?
Well, the bond is gonna be for potentially 26.37 million, right?
All that.
There's gonna be roughly a 4%, 4.5%, give or take, interest on that, right?
Yeah.
So does that mill levy increase include that interest that will be accrued?
So that stuff we sent last Friday, the stuff that you have in front of you, you go to. I think I want to start with that on here. I didn't put that on here. You guys have the sales tax, there's a property tax information for house, commercial, residential, commercial, and agricultural property. And then in addition to that, you have the amortization tables that show you how that's all paid off. That's in that second handout that you have. Next slide. So this is the K-12 option, puts the K through 4 take out, it takes down the building on the south end, those put up in 2008, and two-story addition on the south end, show the K through 4 building. Okay. Yeah. The rest is pretty much the same. Go to the next slide. This is the second story of that, which shows the second story piece of the, you got K four, you got the floor on this side. And then go to the next side. So this is really expensive, honestly. We ended up at $39.4 million project, and one that county felt that is over 30 years, 25 on tax increase, then 28 million increase at 25 years. I think that's kind of going to be a lot of talk about it. It's just sales tax, and it's not really important. But yeah, we want to show you the implications of all that. And what that is. Here's this slide that I want to show you, relative to other areas, other districts in your area. So right now, you guys are at 50.022 mils. So 20 mil increase would be 70 mil overall mill levy. If you went to 25 mils, it'd be obviously 75, which would be close to clincher. So you would still be, even at 20 mils, relative to close to some districts in your area, but definitely pushing the limit. And this is a slide that shows the difference between a city sales tax of 25 and 30 years and then the county over 25 to 30 years as well. The first one was residential property, second one was commercial, and this one's agriculture. And see how it breaks down.
Greg, could we go back to K through 12 and the cost on it? How much would the cost be lowered if we went to an auxiliary gym instead of a top-sided gym?
If you take out, well, two things, you said auxiliary gym, you mean a practice gym, or you mean just a main floor gym?
Right.
Basically, if I took out the track area, just the track area, and you still have the same amount of seating, you still have the same amount of functionality in the gym itself, you take out about maybe 1.5 million out of that overall cost.
So instead of 10 million, would be somewhere around 8.5 million there.
8 to 8.5, somewhere in that range. One of the nice things about this plan though, I think, is that you can start out, you should K7 with the 712 option. And you can basically do everything to the north of the old gym that's gonna stay there. You can basically do all that, and then at some point in time, in the future, it funds become available if for some reason, your funds come from the Hanson Foundation. you could add this piece later. It could even come a year from now, it could come 5 years from now, if you want to do it. And so, I don't think that starting with this piece, 712 option inhibits you in any way from eventually getting the casework option, if that's what you want to do. And the issue is, there's $1.7 million allocated toward the elementary school updating this building. That, do you want to spend money on? It's like, you can move forward with just this piece and defer spending that 1.7 million on doing any improvements here until you know exactly where you're gonna be up there on the main, or at the high school. So I think you do have some flexibility that doesn't put you in a corner, which is that you want to go.
You had kind of mentioned in the past about doing a two-part question on the bond. Can you explain that further? I mean, is that something you'd suggest doing, or?
I mean, it's not something not something I typically suggest, but in this case, I think you could, because I think there's.
So how would that work, or how would that?
So the way that would work is you would say, you would ask the question on the bond, say, do you support doing a 712 high school or a 712 building at X amount of cost? Okay. And then question 2 would be, question 1 has to pass, but in addition to question 1, would you also support the other option of increasing the cost to X? And, but it can be worded in a way that question 2 can't pass unless question. So then you're kind of guarantee yourself, assuming probably in this situation, you probably guarantee yourself you're at least gonna get the 712 option. But then you could also see if the public wanted to support K-12 options.
So I mean, you couldn't, in that scenario, you couldn't say no to one and yes to the other. I mean. Could you say no to the
Can't,
seven?
but the first one, you try and do it in a way that says, do you want a 712 building? That's question 1. Question 2, do you want a K-12 building, which you're gonna get your scope split?
Yeah.
So you try and set it up so that you're gonna get your base support and then see what support there is for the additional option.
If inflation, things keep going like they are, what would that K6 section cost in 5 years? How much more would we be paying?
Last 5 years or just 5 years prior to that?
I know, it's all speculation.
I'm just saying, because 5 years ago, the numbers were unique, we're gonna keep at that third less than what we. That's 25%, probably at least 25% less than what we, but the 5 years prior to that, it wasn't nearly increased. So I would hate to think the next 5 years would be like the last 5 years. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Sure.
And so I wouldn't expect it to be 25% more, but 30% more, but it's probably 15. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a very difficult one to predict the future, but we've got some fancy charts and stuff that could show you where things have tracked. What part of the issue has been is over the past, well, before 2020, is that there was a lot of pent up, or I should say unrealized inflation. So inflation was very low at 1 to 2 to 3% per year. When in reality, it's for construction costs versus the rest of the economy, which was in that 4 to 5%. So construction costs were a little bit underinflated, and you've seen a lot of that kind of rapidly catch up. We're probably headed down something that's a little more closely reflective of what the consumer price index is reflecting, and it's probably in that, we're seeing in that 6% per year. But beyond the end of this year is probably a little bit more unpredictable, so we could probably be in that 15 to 20% pretty easily for 5 years.
We ultimately have a deadline of when the insurance runs out on the time element, correct?
Yeah, it's August.
So as we continue to move forward with this, whether it's a 7 through 12 or K through 12, with our inability to come up with a number that needs to be on the bond based off of waiting on a sales tax, Dame Johansson, or whatever scenario it may be. I guess I feel like we continue to opt out of coming up with a number or kind of boiling it down. My question to that statement is, at what cost? And it brings up an
What
interesting,
different number do you want than the numbers we've gotten for like the last 3 months?
I'm just saying we need to derive at a number and make a decision if that's what the bond is going to be. But I would like to at least ask the question that I was getting at. And that question is as we continue to prolong it, when that time element runs out, what is that cost per month?
I think you previously was said that the cost for keeping the portables was what, 16 to 19,000?
And the utilities are,
Or we go back to the church.
We-
Grade
I
school.
don't,
we can't,
We did for a while, why can't we go back?
because it doesn't pass fire code.
Well, yeah,
That's a fact.
so did you turn us in the first time?
No, I didn't.
Are you gonna turn us in next time?
No, but it's a fact.
we'll do
So
what
what
we need to
happens
do.
if we proceeded once? Now what happens in that scenario?
Let's do it what we got.
I think it's a legitimate question to understand
It is,
that cost.
it is.
That number will be a little lower. Once we get the locker rooms back up, because we can get rid of the locker room.
We're looking about with the utilities and the increased cost, what, 40, 50,000 a month? I'm sure we can figure that out, but it's not a small amount.
I don't know that it's honestly, it's hard to tell right now. We've only had a couple months where we've used them. It has been a high electric bill, but I don't know that it's that much different between, and I'd have to look, but I don't know that's that much different between what we spent before with electric and with the gas bill.
And it can be discussed later as well. It's just a question.
I can use that to build up 2 sides. So, I mean, this is the 712 cost. Now, if you say, I know 23 mils, that's, wouldn't want to go too much higher than that, honestly, recommending that you go forward with something. But I think, somewhere in this 18, 20, 23 mil range is a very viable project and gets you a 712 option. And that's something that honestly we can start right away. And we've got, we can talk about the schedule a little bit, but right now, the plan is to get the gym and the common area and the band room, that's complete. We're ready for you guys to use by August, maybe worst case scenario, September of this year, depending on how things shake out. But the idea would have that work done during the summer. Not 100% sure about having, a rooftop unit for the gym ready by then, because it depends on how long it takes to get that piece of equipment. But otherwise, it's still usable, and you really don't need that full gym until winter comes. So, I mean, you don't have cooling in there now. It has had cooling in there, so it's not, you're not missing anything you don't already have. It'd be when you need heat, we should be able to have it by then. We're still working through with them, some of the engineers, how long it's gonna take to get a rooftop unit it'd take 4 to 6 months, so, that's the piece that we can also ask you guys to procure early, so before we have the drawings done. So when our engineer gets that piece of equipment sized in April, we can come to you and we can say, hey, you guys approve ordering this piece of equipment. And then that'll kind of speed up the process. So we'll order it, say May 1, should be here in October, November time. So, and that would, we'd have it already prepared. We'd have the roof done this summer. We'd have the locker rooms done to where it's a pretty simple installation at that point. So, but that gets you a viable gym, commons area, bathroom, and a band room ready for the next school year. And so then at the same time, if you guys want to at least get started on this route, you guys could approve us to move forward with the 712 building. And that can happen. And then depending on how a vote might happen in August, if you want to have a second question, I'm just going to think that there. If you want to throw out a second question and say, community, would you also support moving K-12 there? If that happened, then we could follow up with those drawings on the rest of it so that you're not losing time on getting the new building process started.
On that renovation of the gym. You've got drawings, summer work included in locker rooms, gym, common area, band run will be sent out May the 1st. That's for bids.
Yeah.
Then that's not gonna leave but 2 months before school starts.
There's not a whole
So
lot.
that gym is not gonna be ready come August.
It will. We're not planning on a whole lot of work in that gym. It really doesn't need a whole lot of work. The big question mark with the gym, honestly, is, smoke. And, the main thing that we are planning on doing in the commons area and the, commons area gym and the, classroom is a fire alarm. Fire alarm has to be up to speed. We talked to the fire marshal, Kansas State Fire Marshal. We don't have to go in there and replace ceilings like you were told in the past. All we have to do is get the fire alarm going and you guys can occupy the building, assuming, of course, that the two are separated from each other, the whole high school. So, I guess it's another, something I want discussion about our understanding of. We were thinking, why spend a lot of money in that commons area band room until we know what we're gonna do with it? But we know we need the fire alarm, so let's just get the fire alarm in there and then you guys can really occupy it.
As long as it's usable, the material.
Right.
The main thing is getting the gym and that commons area used. And volleyball practice starts 1st of August. And to me, that's a key. We can get that resolved and get it resolved quickly, then we've accomplished something.
I know about that. We'll see like that all, but we're gonna be.
They're getting pretty quiet.
Mhm.
Pretty quiet.
It's a lot of money. It's just a lot of money.
So let me ask a question, because I can't read some of this. Back on on option 1. Does that include, does the total dollars include remodel grade school?
Yes.
And it includes the locker room, all that?
It's making the point of it being a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot of money. So you guys seem to be comfortable with the total dollar amount. So Terry's question earlier about do we need to look at not a top loader gym, it's a regular gym. Be able to take out about 1.5 million out of it, but does that make it, if you lose a lot of functionality, but is that where you want to be? We kind of we need to be able to get to this decision by the end of April. Doesn't have to be tonight, that could be April 15th at your next board meeting, but sometime we put in April. We should.
And I wasn't saying that as a
No, I-
dig.
No, I know.
I'm just, it is a lot of money.
And
And no matter which decision we make, you're gonna have some that are happy, you're gonna have some that aren't, you're gonna, you know, that's wonderful part about doing this part. But at the end of the day, the kids won't be virtual, so, you know, that's we're going up from there, so.
This option one even, let's go back to it just because it happened to be on that page. It's a 20 mil increase, that's with the figuring in of a 1%, 1 cent county sales tax, right?
Correct.
When will that answer be? Whether that's, because does that, once it gets through the Senate, at the state level, doesn't have to come back here to a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that would be in August. That vote would be in August. Right here.
So even if we end up with that, which we were just told that there was a little bump in the road with that one, right? But even if we end up with it, we're still looking at a 20 mil increase over 30 years. If we don't end up with it, which I think we will, but that number goes on up.
At our last meeting, we kind of mentioned about doing another community meeting, town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it, after this information has been presented for the community to better understand and ask questions. Is that something we still need to do? I mean, I still keep coming back to the survey that we did, and this was very clear on which option to go with, and they were supportive of spending the extra money. So
I think we have a lot.
Right.
Think, 2 months later, we have a lot more information.
I don't disagree.
Would be worth presenting again and maybe taking another look at that, maybe doing another survey.
I gotta ask what we're doing with this 500,000. Are you done? I gotta ask, there's numbers up here renovating the band room for $523,000. What all are we doing to that?
That ain't band room only. Most of that's gonna be in the ag building, isn't it?
Oh, no, we got another discussion after this one. That will be the ag building. So explain the 523,000. What do we gotta do for that?
So we put $100 a square foot for the renovation of that space, just in general. And at the time, it may not end up costing $100 a square foot. You can do a lot with $100 a square foot, but when you start replacing HVAC and electrical, that's gonna eat up probably over half of that number by itself.
So it's basically just for that, electrical and.
You have HVAC and electrical, and then you'll have, updated finishes, if we wanna go that route. We don't have to go that route. I mean, if you want to just put a ceiling in there, you probably, and kind of make do with what it is right now.
Put a what in?
Ceiling, I mean, right, because it's something that we taken out. And get the fire alarm and get the ceiling in there, and we don't hardly do anything, you're not going to spend $100 per square foot in that area.
Now the ag shop, $633,000 in the ag shop for upgrades.
So that is taking that whole square footage of 15,430 square feet, and we allocated $40 a square foot. And that's mostly HVAC and electrical. And not really doing anything else in there. So, if we want to not do anything with the HVAC and electrical, we could not spend that money, but you guys could attest that $40 isn't a whole lot to go towards that kind of thing.
It's $40, isn't it? But the $633,000 is a whole chunk of change.
Well, it's 15,000 square foot area. And so, you know, what you can charge, you can choose not to do the rest of it. So it'll cut out about 5,000 square feet of that, but, it's, you gotta be a little conservative, just.
Okay.
And
Okay.
all that too.
I'm just curious what we got to do to them.
And keep in mind too, we're trying to be conservative in these numbers. And then we also have $2 million in contingency in these numbers. And so, we have $1.4 million in just regular contingency, have another $439,000 in inflation. And we kind of try and project inflation like the midpoint of construction. And then, that's why we use 1.5%. And then there's other contingency that we have at 2%, just for things that make scope create things that, oh yeah, I kind of want to do this now. I hadn't thought about that before. Some things like that. So you combine all those, and that's $2 million of that overall project amount. So, there's definitely ways to keep this number down and manage it. And that's,
I'm looking at the number and I'm saying that, you guys have always told us that the 20 mils is kind of a key deal. And we're knocking on the door really hard, but already.
well, I think 20 mils, I've always tried to stay below 20 mils on a regular bond. I do think you guys are you're in a different situation. And can you push the 23 or 25? Possibly. I would hate to see it go any higher than that, but, that's, yeah, it's what Jordan was saying earlier. And you do have 2 questions, and the survey kind of pointed to the app people, said, hey, we'd be willing to spend a little bit more to do that right. What that number is, we could send out this information on another survey, get more feedback, or you could do it as 2 questions, and you could say, hey, we really need the support for this. We've heard people really want to spend a little bit more and do this right. Give people the option.
I would like to see the people see the hard numbers of both sets. And I'd like to see it in the survey, and I agree with Matt that,
Yeah.
time's of essence.
Right.
Because like he said, what do we do?
What do we need to feel comfortable with hammering down and deciding on a number from a board's perspective?
Well, we're down to the point now. If you go through 7 through 12 and 1% county sales tax, you're talking about a 20 mil property tax increase. And if you go the K through 12, you're talking about 25 mils. 20% difference. 25, whichever one you want to call it, between the tax burden. And it's what you indicated. We're not, if we went to an auxiliary gym or a main level gym, or $1.5 million off of it's not gonna make an impact. So we don't have any changes that can be made that's gonna, on a K through 12, that's gonna make a major impact on the costs. Is that basically what we're looking at?
I mean, we can always squeeze things tighter. We can squeeze this tighter, and I could probably get it. It's just gonna give you less flexibility later on, and it's, so, yeah, to your point, do you wanna you want us to say, hey, we're gonna only spend $300,000 in the industrial arts, and that's just gonna be an allowance, and we're gonna make that go as far as we can. That's not gonna get us 100% replacement of all the HVAC and things that
Right.
need to be done. So if you tell us, to Matt's point, what do you need to be comfortable with? You need to get comfortable with the years. Are you comfortable with 25 years or 30 years? Can you be comfortable with 30 years? If it gets it down to 20 mils or less. Yeah, so I think that's one question. Second question is, are you comfortable with 20 mils, or are you gonna, if you tell us it has to be down to 18, then we'll go back and we'll show you what 18 looks like. And you see if you're happy with that.
I mean, in that survey, another overwhelming comment was to do it right.
What, that survey was a survey based on, and I agree, the survey was a great idea, but then I just pondered that for a little bit. And out of, generically speaking, there's roughly on average around 1,200 voters that vote on a year like this in Rollins County. So I looked at it from like a test perspective. And you take 1,200 people and we sampled 420 at best. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. What would our grade be?
What do you do, what your grade means?
If I took a test of 1,200 people and or 1,200 questions and I only got 420 right.
And you can't look at it like that.
That's not what
I
survey
understand
was.
that, but you still can. I mean, if it was 50% of the voters that would have replied yes, I would
But
say
you had-
that
I mean,
it's for
when
sure.
We do surveys, we had a great response, Spencer. And I've told you in the past, that if you can get one yes vote for every student you have, you had 375 students and you got 400. You didn't get 400 yes votes, you had about 320 at that survey, you had 74%. That's really good information. You're not gonna get 50% or 75% people responding to the survey. So I don't know what else to tell you. But we think, from what we've seen, that it was a great response.
We can beat it to death, but it's still gonna cost the hell out of us. So, you know, decisions gotta be made, or instead of 3 years to get to school, it's gonna be 5 years.
What do we need versus what do we want?
Is there anybody opposed to having another community meeting, doing another survey? Feedback is what we need the most
How
of.
long would it take to put a survey in and out, get it out and back in?
Well, I really liked how we did it last time, having a community meeting first, and then give people the opportunity to have a response. And so, yeah, I think if you, I don't know how long it would take to organize a community meeting. If you said, the week of April 15th is 2 weeks away, I think that's plenty of time. And then you could give people, we gave people a week and a half or so to respond to the survey after that. I think you could have the information by late April. And it might be early beginning where you can make a decision, just push it a little bit, but you'd have to be ready to make it. Yeah, I don't know, it's next week too soon to have a community meeting. I mean, that would fit the schedule better.
Next week? Is that what you think, Greg, next week?
Yeah, I said sometime the week of like April 10th or 11th. And then you can get your results back by the 23rd, 24th, and then you still have a week or so to kind of make a decision.
Are we gonna do
And
it?
then let's say it's about the same response as we got last time, then where are we at then? I mean, we're no further in making a decision.
Well, but we know it's public work.
I mean, I thought we did last time, I thought we knew last time. Huh?
We got some harder numbers now.
Yeah, there's
We
been
got two
some,
options to compare.
yeah.
We
I
got a
mean,
better handle on what the mill levy's gonna be.
You run the questions just almost similar to the way you would on the vote in August. You know, same way, same form, basically, if you vote yes to this. I think that was kind of confusing last time, where they voted no the first time and then yes to the other option. So I think you have to word it so that it's similar to the way it's gonna be possibly on the vote, if that's what you're looking at, but.
You did
Just to
two
make it-
questions that would be easier to
Right.
figure out.
And then I think we kind of talked to, like, I think it's important to say, do you pay taxes in this county?
Do you
Do
live here?
you live here? Do you,
Would be a great question.
I think you need to have an option for the non-technology savvy people then.
More handouts. more
Well,
hand-
even if you just have it at the grocery store. If they don't wanna come in and drop it at the school, then give them an option, cause then if they don't come in then and don't put their information on paper, nobody can say anything then. But it needs to be an option and it needs to be out there to where they have that.
You guys okay for another survey?
I agree with Lacey though, like the last of it's to use the word K through 12 and say yes, and then you say use the word as K or as 7 through 12, and you say yes, like it's kind of construed differently, like if you are for K through 12, or are you for 7 through 12, like I think those questions is given.
But an online survey, how do you stop people that don't live around here from filling it out? That might be alumni that are in favor of a brand new school,
Well,
even though they're never gonna pay for
Well,
it.
that's what Megan was saying. You have to ask the question, do you live here and pay taxes there? They
Cause
can
we
lie
did
or
have
they don't
people
lie.
sending
you
it to
know.
others
Yeah.
saying, hey, we need this, and I'm not,
now, with the Survey Monkey, were we able to see where they filled it out, you know, like location? Did we read any
can
of
see
the-
their IP addresses, but I don't know if we know where they're from.
To have a zip code option. And then whoever's not in X zip codes gets put in a different category.
Right, like, weeded it out.
I'm not sure how that works. 100%.
Yeah, that'd be.
Making the survey complicated.
I didn't thought to laugh.
I'm just saying, we're making it complicated.
May I raise it just high?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want to offer, I just had a thought, so Farmers Bank and Trust, bring the survey in, our tellers would know whenever they wait on somebody, have you filled out the survey, we have it available for you here, you can fill it out right here and then turn it in right there. Just something that every time somebody comes in, they would be instructed, please ask everybody if they filled out a survey, just offering that.
We have to have a decision on a meeting, right? A community meeting
Yeah, you
to
guys-
lead up to the survey,
correct.
right? Is that,
Yeah.
did I ask that right?
Sooner the better.
Just get her done, come on. We're all treading
What's your
water.
schedule look like next week, Greg? Week from today? If that way, it won't take long to get word out, we're having a meeting.
I got 11.
They'll be here tomorrow.
I can tell you.
The 11th?
Yeah, it's 11.
Let
Or,
me try.
excuse me, is that right? Wednesday would be better, right?
I think as long as it's not track meet, I think, because Wednesday was kind of a problem.
Next Wednesday?
Do Wednesday. So Thursday.
There's nothing.
Sure.
you have anything
Thursday, the
scheduled
11th.
Thursday?
There's nothing on the
There's
calendar.
nothing on the calendar for 11.
Oh, no, 11th, there's not.
Is that Wednesday?
No,
Third.
Wednesday was kind of a problem for some families
Hey,
with
talk to me.
church. Like a lot, there's a lot of teachers that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought Thursday, that was the tracking, that's all fine, it didn't have.
Yeah, there's one on
Okay.
But we get her down.
So what day?
Does that work for Greg?
Thursday.
Pretty little.
Okay.
11th, Greg? Gentlemen, ladies? We agreed?
What time?
Time.
Six o'clock.
6:30.
Are you aware, Greg, of what the interest rates have been doing, what the trend has been? Is it continuing to go up on bonds?
I don't know off the top of my head. The latest one, I know they were still would have been doing pretty well though, at a lower interest rate. So I don't know where they're at now.
What time?
6:30.
What time, people?
6:30.
I
Let
think
people get off
6:30.
work, get the kids fed where they need to be, and then they can be there.
I mean, I don't like it later, but I think that's the best.
We get more people.
Terry, the last ones that I had a project on sold before, right after the first year and beacon, I think it was after the first year, February, under 4%.
Under 4? The number is using the 4.5% and 4.75, then it's very conservative numbers right now.
Yeah, they really should be really conservative numbers. And they don't, so they only, use a 1% increase in valuation, I think also. So typically what private standard would see is, even though you have say it's a 30-year term, you're probably gonna pay it off 5 years here. And so, they really do try and be conservative so that you can hand off those bonds earlier than what you think, but it's still a commitment you're tied to, so.
But if we pass a bond election and sell the bonds, and they happen to sell for 4%, then, the mill levy that would be required would go down.
Correct. And just so everybody understands this, I think we talked about it a little bit in the past. So when you sell those bonds, you're gonna sell $20 million worth of bonds, and then you go put them in CD and you get 5% interest. So it's another way to pick up dollars on a bond issue. And then, another way to pick up dollars on a bond issue is called bond premium. So when you're asking the public to do a bond issue, you're asking them to, say in this case, you're asking them for a $26.37 million bond issue. You're asking the public to allow you to go into debt up to $26.37 million. And so when you sell those bonds, there's a high likelihood that some of those bonds are going to be purchased with cash. Well, that cash was kind of like extra, it's called bond premium. And so, so you won't know this until you sell the bonds. You can't project this into it. But on the last 2 bond issues I've had, one we did crap, and which was an $18 million bond issue, they had $1 million in bond premium, which just means that they sold their bonds and $1 million of them were paid for with cash. And so instead of $18 million, they actually got $19 million. It went into debt up to $18 million. And so that's a way that you can pick up some money as well, but that just depends on the market at the time. And like I said, you can't project it that way. Didn't want anything to be hidden on any of that.
Did we finish the slides?
Is that it, Greg? Or-
No, I had a few other things. So schedule, So I think we talked about it a little bit. I don't know if you guys want to say anything more about the schedule. Where I covered it well enough as far as we're trying to get through the summer, you know?
Yeah, no, to Terry's point, I mean, you said it is at least 2 months, and that is a concern with equipment and whether or not we have access to power in that existing gym is not. So that's what, once we get that additional information, we'll dive into that and understand that a lot better as far as those material lead times.
Well, if we can get this done by August, that'll be the first time we got anything done in a timely manner.
Not gonna make any promises because I'd rather under promise than over deliver, but until I know and understand those equipment and manufacturers, I don't want to answer on that, so.
Well,
Come back and just some
you know,
additional-
it really concerns me. We had kids riding up and down the highway, east and west, to
Understand.
find a place to, practice. And we need to eliminate that as soon as possible.
So we do have some things working in our favor in that regard. Not huge things, but some good things. We're not planning on, the way they're planning on doing the electrical side of things is to, we're not buying a new transformer, we're not buying big equipment, we're just gonna put a smaller piece of equipment in the band south area. And then we're gonna feed back into the gym. So when it comes time to need an actual transformer, they're gonna reuse the transformer that you had on high school. And because the energy company, I can't remember the name of the company, they have it available. And so they have it, that we can set that temporarily. And then one thing that we may be coming back to you in this summer even, or is, we're probably going to need a new transformer. New transformers, we were told today, have a 14-month lead time. So if we order it in May, we're not gonna get it till July of 25. And so, so there's some things that we need to be thinking about and be preparing you guys for to, get ahead of that game a little bit, but we have a game plan to reuse the old transformer at least in the meantime. On the fire alarm, we're gonna set a new panel in they say the gym, I think they said the gym, right?
Yep.
The old panel for the high school was taken to BOAG building. BOAG is a standalone system right now. It's our plan right now, unless you say otherwise, is just to keep it a standalone system for that building. And so you put a new panel in the gym, and to get that whole fire alarm piece going. And I think we had I think everything else, water and sewer, we had taken care of as well, right? So I can't remember.
Jeff, what's that electrical panel that we have in that basket? I think it's a three-phase one, right? This connected, that was. I can't remember, it's the main panel that they've gotten. We can get that information for that.
Is there anything from the board's perspective that's needed to keep marching forward with the gym?
So really, from our TU or rooftop unit standpoint, until we know what the size of that unit's gonna be, which hopefully we'll know later this week, first part next week, once the engineers have a chance to size everything. What we can do is we can go to 2 to 3 different manufacturers and get costs for what just that unit is, and then we can bring that back to you all. Typically, what we've seen in the past, because we run this on every project equipment, is lead times is we go ahead and get our spot in line, from approval from you all to get our spot in line for those units, once we know that size, and typically no monies are due until that unit is ready to ship. So that is one way we can continue that ball rolling down the right path. And we just, we just did that on, school and Emporia for, I don't know, I think it was like 8 or 9 rooftop units, because we're in the same.
So the only thing holding that up is the drawings currently. Is
Yeah,
that
but
decision?
what we've asked, correct, what we've asked the engineers to do is get us that information, because we know the size of the gym, right? We said, we don't necessarily need the drawings for all that, we just need a schedule that calls out what that unit size is supposed to be, so we can go get bids on that from the manufacturers.
And you talking about transformer?
No, I'm talking about rooftop units for the HVAC system.
Oh,
And then, yeah.
well,
On the
you're talking about,
He was talking about transformers
all right,
earlier.
if you talk to Midwest,
Our engineers have, yeah.
cause they went beyond and above to get us transformers and stuff for the modulars. And they found it.
When you say Midwest, is that,
Midwest Energy.
yeah, that's
It's
what
a
they've
lot
been
to
talking
come
to. They have the old transformer from the high school. They've been talking to. them.
So we essentially would take that old one, temporarily place it, so we could get power up and operational to that existing facility, but then knowing we're gonna have to set a new transformer that's larger to feed the new school in the future.
And we don't know how big that's gonna be.
Correct, they're still working through all of that sizing, and they're trying to be more conservative for future potential additions.
HVAC on the gym, you'll know this week.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Hopefully, maybe.
and as soon as you do, Eric, or we'll have to talk on you. Okay,
But that is just for air conditioning and heat for the gym
yeah,
itself. The
yeah.
locker rooms, we're just gonna be replacing some furniture, some smaller pieces of equipment, so the locker room won't be impacted by any of that. Then they were gonna put electric reheat in the lower locker rooms. I don't like to use electric reheat because it's more expensive to use, but down in those two locker rooms, it's a pretty small space, it's not used that much, seems like an okay way to go.
You ready to turn boilers on down there?
Since we're talking about upgrading the gym, or getting it going, but we're gonna be needing to use this gym for a while yet, correct? I mean, is there any updates that, I mean, is locker rooms working? Do we need to refinish the floor? I mean, are those things that need to be looked at as well?
I mean, the floor will get coated this summer. We'll be on the schedule for that. Short of that, it's replaced if you're gonna sand it.
You're talking about basketball court. Okay.
I think the locker room bathrooms are interesting. I think there's some of them that are taped off. Some that are being used, but, that's kind of the theme here with bathroom, so.
Well, I mean, it'll still need to be used until we have a new gym, correct?
Yeah.
Would you want locker rooms redone here? We haven't looked at that, honestly.
I mean, I don't know about redone, just operational.
Yeah.
Would be-
I don't know if they're not using it, are they? I don't know, honestly.
We've used them this year.
Yeah, that's where like our boys,
Basketball,
basketball, girls basketball, volleyball.
I can look at that.
Right, so I mean, it might as well be. Up to par.
The only other thing I had was, I think there have been some questions about CMAR process and getting bids and all that. So we want to have some clarity on that, right? So maybe Barry and Eric talk, and I could chime in too on the whole process. And so when we go through the CMAR process, construction manager at risk, it's really, the construction manager is the general contractor. And except in many ways, well, it's a lot, I mean, you say it's a lot better than the general contractor process. You get a lot more transparency. You get to see all the bids, not just what happens on bid day. You get some help and you get to help in selecting who's gonna work on the project and who isn't. You get to see how parts of the project can be broken down into ways that local contractors can do pieces of it. For instance, maybe they can't do the full basement, but they could do the site concrete. just different things like that. So, but it's still, I think it's even more competitive bid than the old hard bid process, but you guys want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I think, what we view is CM at risk and the value that it provides district is really is in the pre-construction time. So as we had the conversation around the junior high locker rooms, our role in this, and if we're doing our jobs correctly, is to be able to provide a value of what does that cost for that specific scope of work, so you guys can all make a decision of, is a junior high locker room in or is it out? So that's really from the pre-construction standpoint, that's the value in it, is that we can provide that analysis and help you guys make informed decisions around the scopes of the projects. When it comes to bid times, yes, and I apologize, we shared this in our interview, a little booklet, a little spiral bound thing that really defined the number of bids that we get. We typically get 90 to 120 bids, generally speaking. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. A lot of that depends on what the status of the market is at that point in time. Our job when it comes to bid time is to market the heck out of this project and make it as desirable as a project as possible to the trade partner market, so that we can get as many bids. More bids equals more competition, which equals better price. Point blank.
Okay, this is where I get confused, because you talk about getting all these bids in, but then you turn around and tell me you're the construction company. So if you're the construction company and are gonna do the job, and you get these bids in, bid against yourself.
So, yeah, good question. So that scope of work would be on what we would call self-perform work, self-perform scopes, which generally includes carpentry, job site cleanup, job site management, those general things that really are, when we talk about job site cleanup, job site fencing, that type of thing, we don't see contractors lining up at our door going, hey, we want to come sweep your floors. We want to pick up all the trash on the job site. So that's something that we traditionally self-perform, and it allows us to have better control of the project site and better flow of the job, so that it makes it more efficient and a better project for the contractors that we're actually hiring to do the work. So the scopes that we're going to self-perform are not in competition necessarily with those trade partners that we're going to go out to the market for. Our role there is to supplement and fill in the gaps if there are any of trade partners that we can't get bids for it, or there's scopes that temporary enclosures is another good example of that.
Okay, so you're saying you're a construction company, because I'm really lost on this. I'm just totally blind. But you keep telling me you're a construction company, and then you hiring contractors to do all the work. Do you own all the equipment, all the hammers and all the diggers and backhoes and excavators? Or do you subcontract all that out?
Yeah, so we subcontract that type of thing out, with the exception of the tools and equipment that are required to perform the scopes of work that we would be doing.
Okay, and what work would you be doing yourself?
Yeah.
What
so-
exactly can your company do as construction or contractors or whatever?
So our primary role is supervision and management of the project. So
Okay.
we're there to make sure that
Yes.
the project is on budget, on time, it's safe, and it's a proper quality.
Got that part.
So then beyond that, it starts to roll into, again, the job site cleanup,
Okay.
temporary fencing, temporary enclosures, site
But
cleanup and
actual
maintenance
contractors come in and do all the work.
for the bricks. and
Laying the
sticks.
brick, laying the blocks, all that concrete work, plumbing work. Okay,
That's correct.
okay.
Are you guys capable of doing the plumbing?
No.
Okay.
We were not
I think
We're not
that's,
licensed plumbers, we're not licensed electricians.
so that's what I'm trying to, I mean, like that electrician, you guys don't have an electrician in the
Correct.
department, you guys don't have a plumber on board.
No.
Okay, so that's where go ahead.
Mainly the cleaning and
Support, and we're kind of the glue that holds the whole job site
Okay,
together and
well,
keeps it.
then
moving
everybody's
forward.
telling me you're the construction company, and I'm saying, okay, if you're the construction company, and you're gonna get bid against yourself, somebody gotta keep you on.
But even when we do work with general contractors, We do it the exact same way.
Yes.
They don't do all the work themselves. There's some general contractors that do more work. Some might have
Okay.
their own masons, but most don't anymore. And you guys, there are 3 or 4 trade groups that you guys might bid on, right?
Yeah, and I can understand that, but now we're back to where I thought we were at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is that you don't do the actual building, but you do the overseeing and the management and all that, bid collecting, whatever.
Correct.
Say, okay, that's,
Yeah.
But if there is something that they want to bid on, you guys.
Yeah, so typically
Okay,
some of
yeah.
those, I can go down.
Within
to
your
Yes,
realm.
within our wheelhouse.
yeah,
Rough carpentry, finished carpentry, specialties like your toilet partitions, your bathroom, scrap rails, those things. But again, there's laws that govern that we gotta bid that, submit it to you a day prior
Well,
to
and
receiving all the
that's
other bids.
It's all closed bids, essentially. Right? If you guys have to bid on something like that with all the other bids,
We submit our bids to you all.
Yeah.
A day in advance, right? So that when we get those other bids, if they're bidding on rough carpentry, finished carpentry as well, we lay it all out on the table because it makes sense. You need the best bang for your buck, right? If we're more expensive, it doesn't make sense to use McCown Board to do that. Let's go use contractor fee
Sure,
because you get
okay.
a better value.
where I got confused is that I thought you did exactly what you did. And then somebody's telling me that, no, they're the construction company.
Yeah.
Which tells me you got all the equipment. 1,000 people are bringing out here, you know,
Yeah,
masonry, everybody, but that's not your job.
We're hiring the experts,
Yeah.
that's all they do is build that
And
kind of
that's
stuff.
what my
that
understanding
trades.
was at the beginning until somebody confused me. I probably confused myself. Okay.
Does that answer your questions around the
It answers
construction
mine,
management?
ladies.
Terry, you good?
I got one question. In your proposal, you had a fee basis code, what, $2 million? Where does that come from? I mean, Greg and his.
Those are all included in those numbers I already showed you.
What?
That $100 per square foot, their numbers are in that.
Okay, that's what I was asking,
Baked into the construction costs,
in the cost.
yes.
That's your specialty, is knowing where it's at.
That is it.
I'm doing good.
So once we get all the bids, we'll have a process where we come sit down with you guys and we'll show you the bid results of all the trade partners, who the trade partners are that are below, and then make recommendations based on, are they financially stable? Can they meet the schedule? Do they have the right manpower? Are they qualified to build it? Those types of conversations, and we'll have dialogue around that and make sure that we're all in agreement. And, you know, if there's any issues with that, we can absolutely work through that. But that's our typical and preferred method of how we approach these when it comes time to present the bids and present a total GMP for the project. So I think the last thing that we wanted to chat about was demolition and the demo scope. We do have a set of drawings from Greg's team for the demolition scope. We're currently working through, there's several unknowns around the demolition scope and that project in general. As you guys are aware of, is there is asbestos in the building, and that does require some special treatment, so that we can make sure that the public is safe, the environment's safe, and the workers are safe and not exposed to any asbestos. We're working through that because of some structural information that we've got that really dictates the process of how that building needs to come down, and then where does the construction debris finally end up. We have a lot of questions out there that we're trying to connect with the experts that deal with this stuff every day, so that we can formulate a plan and bring that back to you all and make sure that we got a clear path communicated forward. That plan very well could be different than the plan that you saw from the previous contractor that bid that. So I just wanna be transparent with you guys in that when we bring that forward and bring a recommendation forward, however that needs to happen, is that definitely could be different than what you previously had dealt with DCS, from a contracting standpoint, from a where's the stuff go and how's it gonna happen? I unfortunately don't have a lot of answers for you today, but our commitment is that we'll get the answers back to you, and come back with a better plan that we can communicate on it. But
Do you have a timeline for that?
our goal is to have the plan figured out before your 15th next board meeting, so we can communicate that back.
That's,
That lead,
sorry, go ahead.
that leads us to, when's the dump gonna be open?
They've been digging for 8 weeks, they're about half done. We're supposed to be bringing another scraper in to speed things along, but they haven't got the parts to fix it yet. And as soon as they get it dug, you know, they have to come back out and survey it, make sure it's dug according to the plans. And then the state will have to say yay or nay on being able to use it. You know, if Jehoy gets another scraper in there, we could be done in 3 weeks, or, you know, right now we're like 8 weeks and we're half done.
2 more months.
So hopefully by the first part of May, maybe if we're lucky. But by the time you bid this all out, it's
Maybe
gonna
for,
be middle of May anyway, won't it?
maybe for the last day of school, we can knock the school down. That'd be fine with me.
We get the size from the building and plug it and then-
Is there any of the building that the bricks are recycled or crushed up or anything? Is there any of that is happening with it?
You go ahead.
Yeah, the salvage, I think we talked through the salvage pieces around that old entryway, the main entrance, not the gym, but
I mean, like all the concrete stuff, is that gonna get hauled off to a crusher that turns it into?
Yeah, so in that case, we would leave that to the contractor that's actually doing the demolition work. Our hope is that they're being as environmentally responsible with it as possible, and if it means they can reuse it somewhere else, then that's what they'll do. That's one of the questions that I think we're working towards asking those
So are
qualified
you
contractors.
giving them the option to keep the concrete and the steel and then resell it on their own? Let it come to the landfill or what? Because if the steel comes up there, you know, we may have to find plan B to put it, because there could be a lot of steel there.
Yeah, so a lot of times in these mass demolition is they're able to separate out the various components with steel, copper, concrete, and then, you know, in order for it to go to a recycling center, you know, it needs to be a certain size, certain whatever. And that's, again, that's the demolition contractor's responsibility. And sometimes they can get money for it if that's an option. So at this point, we don't have a lot of answers around how that stuff is gonna be handled. What the district is, and what we're concerned about is making sure that they're doing it in a safe manner that doesn't endanger anybody that's living nearby, any workers that are on site, and then, you know, make it, you know, first and foremost is making sure that they're compliant with laws. Because there are special requirements around how to deal with a building that has asbestos in it. So that's the primary focus at this point, is making sure that it's all done compliant, because there's been some recent cases that have made front page of state newspapers that you guys don't need to be on the front page of the newspaper because stuff didn't go to the right spot.
Again,
So when do you guesstimate they send bids out for demo?
So that's out on the street right now. We're working to clarify this information to the bidders so that they can have a better idea of what exactly it is that they need to scope out and how they need to do the demolition and where that rubble needs to go. And we're working to do that here in the coming days. And then we'll have a better idea beyond that of what that looks like. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information, but as I promised, I'm gonna come back to you and make sure that you guys have that information, have a clear plan for it.
On the gym, there's no reason that you can't start the work on the gym without the building being demoed.
We have to have the building separated. So it doesn't have to be demoed, but think one of the first things they'll do is they'll come and separate the two buildings.
Put that buffer zone in.
Yeah, when that happens, they can start, they don't have to have the whole thing done before we can start working on it.
Anything else, guys, everybody?
It's good from our end.
Questions? Comments, statements?
Anybody need a break?
Anybody?
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I know, whatever.
I'm good. I was.
Well, we kind of discussed all of them, right?
Yeah. Move on.
Hey, you do have one question, sorry. So before the 11th, we're gonna present basically what we showed tonight to the community. You guys don't need to see anything else prior to that. We want to send this out prior to that meeting. So you kind of have an idea of what's being presented.
When are we gonna come up with the questions that are going to be asked?
On the next survey.
Sure.
Get that Barb work on that this week, so she could send them out as a draft to you guys to take a look at later this week.
I think that would be
Yeah.
a great idea.
As long as we're not responding all.
I did that the other day.
Stuff happens.
We'll send it to Eric. You guys can-
Did we come up with a time for the meeting? 6:30?
6:30.
6:30?
I mean, can you put some of those slides on the website, so
Responding back.
Yeah, you can do the presentation up there, or weekend tomorrow.
Probably get Chandler to do it tomorrow.
I,
Tonight.
Yeah.
Right ahead.
That's the spirit.
Done deal.
Like it.
That's it. We'll move on. 24-209. FPT architect contract, finalized contract with FPT architecture.
So, still working on the county contract, so hopefully that'll not be too long from now. But the SPT one was reviewed by the attorney, there was a couple of minor changes that he asked Civil DeGray,
agree to.
read to him. So, it was put into your packet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's one there.
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
That's the same one we got on, sent to us.
has everybody read the contract?
Attorney, you read everything the attorney said?
Well, the one part I did like was the attorney said Eric should check out what the other architects charge on fees. And we were the lowest, so I thought, well, we charge.
We need to sell that.
Like, no, you didn't do that.
I read through quite a bit of it. I was kind of off.
Do we need to? What did they return?
I mean, it's the one that was sent out a while back too, there's just a couple minor changes. Most of them had to do with the arbitration.
If ain't anybody made, or got any questions, I'll make a motion.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
go.
Motion. I'll make a motion that we hire, a contract with SPT Architecture, for the construction, on the high school, junior high, so on.
The motion to accept the contract,
I'll second.
deputy,
I'll
second. All those in favor? Whatever Terry said. All opposed?
Thanks, Greg.
What do you need for executive session?
Tim goes, or that.
And then board admin, got that?
Yep. I move that we go into executive session with personnel with board and admin for 10 minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? 10 minutes extra session. Board admin, all opposed?
We're gonna go into the
We're going into the board room, or the bathroom. Wherever you want to talk. to 24-211. Pardon?
Just everything again.
We are going back into session. We're going to 24-211. Executive session action on, is there any approval or resignations?
I'm gonna step out while you go.
Mr. President, I move that we hire Catherine Withington as assistant junior high track. Mandolin Williams, assistant junior high girls basketball. Cindy Wiley, driver's ed. And also accept the resignations of Jeff Sampson and Brenda Henry from high school scholar bowl.
I second that.
There's been a motion and a second to hire Catherine Whittington, Mandolin Williams, and Cindy Wiley, and accept the resignation of Jeff Sampson and Brenda Henry for many years of service. Is there a second?
It's been said.
All those in favor, sorry. All opposed?
Where's Terry?
He left for the
He
ball.
stepped out.
Oh,
Stepped out.
but it reversed Terry.
Hand daughter.
Is that what we're doing for Terry?
Let's move on.
So get him back in here.
Terry.
Got a job to do.
I'm here. Harry can't leave.
We need you.
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Yeah, time.
I'll second.
Been a motion to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
All opposed?
Steve,
I didn't screw that one.
keep talking.
Why are you looking at me?
Sometimes you need to win.